So I went into the A icon on the left side rail and typed out a word, Alexa, and I wanted to make it 7 inches, and I couldn't find anywhere where I could just type in 7 inches. So there's Alexa again. She talks to me all the time. Then I went into the color palette on the right-hand side and chose red. Next, I started playing around with fonts and chose Amarilla for Alexa and Grinched for Do the Dishes. With my very simple design finished, I realized I needed to mirror it. So of course I went into Help, and it told me to go to Object, Mirror, and flip horizontally. So I decided to draw a bow, and I am not an artist, but I selected the pencil icon, freehand smooth, and started playing around with the bow. And then I double-clicked the image because I hadn't tried point editing yet. And I used Simplify and then started playing around with point editing. And that is so much fun. I can't wait to learn more about this. I begin this little journey in Google Images, where I find a field of blue stars that I like, save it, and then upload it into Silhouette Studio. Then I highlight the field of stars and go into the Trace panel, which looks like the butterfly to me. It's on the right-hand rail, and I trace and detach. This makes all the little stars separate, so I can start playing around with them any way I want. Once I have the field of stars exactly the way I want it, I highlight the image and group it. I went into the Silhouette library and pulled up some cute lips and eyelashes, and I always duplicate images when I know I'm going to use them. So I duplicated the image and then erased the eyelashes because I only wanted to use the lips. So here's the word. You can see what it would look like in camo. You've got your word highlighted. Go into offset. You can have rounded corners. You can have squared corners. I'm going to use the rounded corners. And you can make it a bigger offset or a smaller one just by going up and down. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but please subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to hit that bell. Thanks. All right, now we're putting this on a gray t-shirt, so let's get our gray color and we're going to send that to the back so we can see the rest of our stuff. We're going to copy it over. And we're going to do this copy in, leave that off for a moment. All right. Do this copy in white. Move our tougher down. We're going to do our offset in white. I'm going to open a file called Elbows. And let me show you. It's a PNG I brought in. Okay, elbow. We want to make that an SVG. So we're going into our trace panel up here and select a trace area. Perfect. And put our threshold up as high as we can so that'll smooth it out. And we're going to trace it and detach it. We need to make all this stuff bigger, Jen. So that is now an SVG. We're going to go up into Object Align Center. So that gets that centered. And then we're going to center with that our elbow bumping. Instead of embracing or hugging, which I prefer to do, we bump elbows now, right? Okay, now the reason I didn't do that all at one time is that if I tried to align it, it would have made the elbows centered. I'm going to take you to my screen and show you how to use the warp feature in Silhouette to correct when you're putting some copy or an image on anything cylindrical. Now you have to have the business edition of Silhouette Studio. You can't do it in Designer or the free edition. First thing we need to do is to take some measurements. We want to measure across the top. I have about 3.5 inches. We want to measure across the bottom, and that is about 2.5 inches. And then we want to measure the height. So that is 5 inches. All right, so let's take the copy and set it aside. We'll move the little dog and the bone off. And I'm going to select all the copy. And we're going to go into this arrow in the right-hand side down here and go into this funny warp panel. And that's 9 squares and it shows how to warp it. But I don't want that. I want this conical warp. And I'm going to put my measurements in here. And if you'll remember, I had 3.5 inches across the top, 2.5 inches across the bottom, and 5 inches for the height. And then I'm going to use the lower bars to move my copy where I want it and to size it how I want it. I'm going to go to save the selection to the hard drive. We're going to save it to our desktop as dog bone and save it as an SVG. Guys, you're really going to have to trust me on this. This conical warp really is straight. I just put it on crooked.